The whispering well echoes from the depths. I remember the day I first arrived in Al-Safir like it was yesterday. It was an April morning, the sun blazing down mercilessly on the desert sands, with a relentless wind blowing in from the Arabian Sea, carrying the sharp, briny scent of salt and dried seaweed mixed with swirling dust. My name is Yusuf Rahman, a 34-year-old water engineer dispatched by my company to this remote, fictional coastal village to investigate unusual salinity spikes in their ancient well. The village clings to the edge of the desert where endless golden dunes meet the restless turquoise waves, and that wealth, the lifeblood of the community, is said to predate the village itself, dug by forgotten nomads in a time lost to history. I'm not a superstitious man. My world is built on facts and figures, but from the moment I set foot in Al-Safir, an inexplicable unease settled over me, like the air itself was murmuring secrets meant only for the damned. I navigated my battered jeep along the winding dirt road, clouds of red dust billowing in my wake, obscuring the rear-view mirror. Al-Safir isn't much to look at, a modest cluster of a few hundred families, eking out an existence through fishing the treacherous seas and herding hardy camels across the arid plains. The houses are squat and unassuming, constructed from rough stone and sun-baked mud, their roofs patched with weathered palm fronds that rattle in a constant breeze. At the heart of the village lies a small crackstone square, and dominating that square is the well. It's unlike any structure I've encountered in my years of fieldwork. The stone rim rises about a meter high, encrusted with a thick layer of white salt rime that resembles ancient, jagged scars. The mouth of the well is perpetually damp, glistening with moisture even during the harshest droughts, when not a single drop of rain has fallen for months. The locals dub it the salt well because its water is saltier than the ocean itself, yet they ingeniously filter it for irrigating their sparse crops and quenching their thirst. Most baffling of all, the well has never run dry, defying logic and geology alike. Upon my arrival, Imam Karim, the village's venerable cleric, his long white beard flowing like a cascade of snow down to his chest, and his eyes deep-set like shadowed abysses, was waiting patiently by the well's edge. He greeted me in the melodic local Arabic dialect, his voice warm yet laced with an undercurrent of solemn warning. "Welcome to Al-Safir, Brother Yusuf. But heed this, the well is not a plaything to be trifled with." I offered a polite smile, dismissing his words as the quaint folklore typical of isolated rural communities. As an engineer, I place my faith in empirical evidence, salinity measurements, groundwater dynamics, geological surveys, not in spectral tales or jinn from the Holy Quran. I shook his weathered hand firmly and began unloading my equipment from the jeep. I secured lodging in a modest house on the village's periphery, mere steps from the crashing waves of the sea. The dwelling was Spartan, cold stone walls that seemed to absorb the day's heat, a hard-packed dirt floor, and a simple wooden bed frame creaking under the slightest weight. My wife Aisha remained behind in the bustling city, hundreds of kilometers inland. We'd quarreled bitterly before my departure. "Stay away from that well, Yusuf," she'd pleaded, her voice quivering with unspoken dread. Aisha never elaborated on her fears, but I suspected they stemmed from whispered rumors she'd overheard, or, perhaps more deeply, from the shadows of our shared tragedy. Our firstborn son, Amin, had perished 5 years prior in a heartbreaking drowning accident. He was just 7, frolicking carelessly by a neighbor's pool. I should have been vigilant, but I was engrossed in an urgent work call. One fleeting moment of inattention, and he slipped away forever. The guilt has never released its grip on me. Night after night, I relive it in dreams. Amin's voice calling out "Father," high-pitched and desperate, echoing from beneath dark, churning waters. Aisha knows of these nightmares, but we've buried the topic in silence. It's a festering wound we dare not probe. On the first day of my survey, I lugged my toolkit to the well under the Imam's watchful gaze from a respectful distance. "Are you aware of our taboo?" he inquired gravely. I shook my head, focused on calibrating my instruments. "If you hear a child's voice calling your name from the depths of the well, never, under any circumstances, respond." I paused, a chuckle escaping my lips. "Why is that, Imam? Is there a jinn lurking below?" His unblinking stare pierced me. "Not a common jinn. This is Al-Munadi, the caller. It emerges from the anguish of those who've suffered loss. It knows your deepest regrets intimately and wields them to beckon you." I nodded courteously, but inwardly scoffed at the myth. I lowered my sounding line, collected water samples. The salinity readings were off the charts, over 35 parts per thousand, and the depth seemed bottomless, an abyss defying measurement. I logged the data meticulously, content with the progress. The days in Al-Safir passed in a monotonous rhythm. The sun scorched the earth relentlessly, turning the air into a shimmering haze, while the wind carried the pungent temps of seaweed and decaying fish from the shore. The villagers were hospitable, sharing steaming cups of mint tea and warm flatbread baked in earthen ovens. They spoke of the well with a mix of awe and trepidation. Legend held it was excavated by ancient nomads during cataclysmic famines, a lifeline in the barren wilderness. The salt arises from the tears it has swallowed, an elderly woman confided, her gaze lost in the horizon. I noted it as ethnographic color for my report. But the nights transformed everything. As darkness fell, the sea winds inverted, sweeping inland with eerie whispers resembling fragmented conversations from afar. Reclining in my humble abode, I'd strain to discern them faint, elusive. At times, they mimicked a child's distant sob, emanating from the central square. My second night brought insomnia. I tossed on the creaky bed, sweat-soaked, despite the cooling breeze. Dreams ensnared me. Amin stood at the well's brink, water dripping from his sodden form. "Father, it's so cold down here." I jolted awake, heart hammering. Beyond the window, the whispers persisted, insistent. Compelled, I ventured out under the sliver of a crescent moon. The square lay deserted, shadows dancing from swaying palms. I approached the well, peering into its inky maw. Nothing but void. Then, a faint sob muted, as if filtered through layers of water. Not the wind. I leaned closer, ear pressed to the cold stone. "Faither." My veins turned to ice. It was Amin's voice, exact, unmistakable. I shook my head violently, attributing it to exhaustion and grief. Retreating home, I bolted the door, but sleep eluded me, fractured by echoes. Come morning, I confided in Imam Karim during his visit. He showed no surprise, merely nodding sagely. "Al-Munadi has sensed you, Yusuf. It summons, with the voice of your most cherished," irritated. I retorted, "I don't subscribe to such fantasies. Perhaps it's stress-induced hallucinations or acoustic anomalies." He offered a melancholic smile, wrinkles etching deeper. "Many like you have come, engineers, scholars, wanderers." They listened, they heeded the call, they disappeared. The well devours them whole. I brushed aside his words, diving back into my tasks, analyzing salinity, mapping subsurface strata. The water defied convention. The salt appeared endogenous, not from marine intrusion as if birthed from the well's core. Aisha's daily calls via my satellite phone were lifelines. "Are you holding up, Yusuf?" she'd query, concern etching her tone. I assured her all was well, omitting the auditory hauntings. She understood my persistent dreams. "Don't let the past consume you, Yusuf. We lost Amin, but we have each other." Her words rang true, yet the guilt anchored me. If only I'd been attentive, Amin would thrive. In Al-Safir, that remorse resurfaced with vicious clarity. The third night, the summons intensified. Scribbling notes by flickering lamplight, a voice pierced the night. "Father, I'm hungry." I bolted to the square. The well's surface shimmered under moonlight. "Amin," I murmured, halting abruptly. The taboo reverberated in my mind. No response. Pulse racing, I withdrew. Dawn brought inquiries to villagers. They evaded my gaze. Disregarded. "Engineer, that's not your boy." Al-Munadi deceives masterfully. Yet the voice was flawless. Amin's cadence, his childish lilt. Doubt gnawed at me. Toxic gases inducing visions. Air tests yielded normalcy. Echoes from the depths. I deployed a microphone, recorded. Initial playback, mere wind howls, but through headphones, solitary. "Father, why did you abandon me?" Shivers coursed through me. I dialed Aisha immediately. "I believe I'm hearing Amin." She sobbed across the line. "Return home, Yusuf. That well is cursed." Duty bound me. The survey incomplete. I lingered. Over tea beneath a palm's shade, Imam elaborated on Al-Munadi. "The well harbors memories, not mere water. Bereaved souls weep here. Their tears nourish it. It's not malevolent, compassionate even. It grants rehearing that voice, a chance for self-forgiveness, but answering invites it forth." "Forth? How?" I queried, voice trembling. "It assumes your form. You merge with the well eternally." I quaked, yet the yearning to hear Father anew overwhelmed. As a devout Muslim, I know of jinn from scripture, but mortal frailty triumphed. The fourth night escalated to climax. Winds howled, a cacophony of voices. I carried my recorder to the well, resolved to capture proof. Leaning in, I listened. "Father, I didn't drown. I've been waiting for you." Amin's tone, words evolving, not repetitive hallucination, but dialogue. Tears streamed, splashing into the abyss, as salty as its contents. "Amin," I whispered, my heart already yielding. Morning light revealed my recorder perched on the rim. The well endured, its brine intensified. I was nowhere. Thereafter, the well called in a mature male timbre, "Aisha, I'm home." That's the village's account. As for me, uncertainty reigns. Perhaps I linger below, awaiting a reply. Or I've emerged, murmuring in your ear. Do you hear the call? Resist answering, but should you, you'll comprehend my surrender.